What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Against the Flow. This is a podcast for music producers, artists, creatives, entrepreneurs, and anyone doing anything extraordinary in life. This is your host, Yenoh Sounds, and today we're going to be talking about making sacrifices. So without further ado, let's get into another episode of Against the Flow. Alright, so we are live with the 32nd episode of Against the Flow. And today we're going to be talking about making sacrifices. So before I started my journey as a music producer, I wouldn't say I wasted a lot of time, but I spent a lot of time doing unproductive things that didn't contribute to my growth. And I wouldn't say waste time, because if I didn't go through what I went through, then I wouldn't have learned what I learned to get to where I'm at right now. But the type of things that I was doing that was unproductive was constantly partying, binge watching tons of Netflix and YouTube, constantly going out with friends, going to sleep at 5 or 6 in the morning and waking up way past noon and still taking a nap a few hours later because I felt tired. And it was things like this. And I didn't really care too much about my future. I was just more of go with the flow type of guy. So I didn't really have any solid plans for the future. So during this time, it was my early years of college before I got into music production. Fast forward 3.5, almost 4 years later, I now wake up around 6:30. Give or take, I do sleep in sometimes, like I would wake up around 8, 9. The latest would probably be 10. I would wash my face, get some tea, look at my schedule, plan my day, plan my week, plan my content, taking notes, exercising, work on music, and work on content creation, and so much more. I rarely go to any parties or hangouts. I would sleep around 12 or 1, sometimes 2 or 3 if I'm still working or I just want to give myself extra time in the evening to relax. But I wake up super early. I dedicate a lot of my time and effort into building my brand, my business, and at the same time working on myself, educating myself with the proper things like music production, branding, marketing, ads, and all of those things. So as you can see, the person I just described to you is a totally different person than the type of person I was 3.5 years ago. I feel like if I were to go back in time and meet my past self, I most likely wouldn't even recognize myself. More or less, if I try to give my younger self advice, I probably would just brush it off or not even listen to my future self. So just describing the type of person I was before to the type of person I am now is like comparing apples to oranges. Two totally different people, different mindsets, different personalities, different goals and ambitions, perspective in life, and just different everything. So how did all of this start happening for me? I mean, there must have been a drastic change or something must have happened for me to grow so much, think about my future more, and grow up to be more mature. Well, it started happening when I decided to become a music producer, and I underestimated how hard it would actually be. I didn't really fully understand what it took to have a successful career in the music industry at the time. I just thought I would make great music, blow up, make tons of money, go on tours, sell out shows, sell merch, and all of my problems in life would just go away. But the more I got into it, I started to see the hardships of what it actually takes to become a successful music producer, and things became a lot more clear to me. One thing for sure, making great music, blowing up and selling tons of merch and selling out shows, that idea I had of a successful music producer just flew out the window. I just didn't really have that as my success in the music industry anymore. Instead, I realized it was going to take a lot of work, like a lot of work. And I'm talking years worth of constant grinding. The amount of work that I had to put in was more than I ever imagined, to be honest. Like, I felt like my dream was almost impossible because I couldn't even comprehend the amount of work I had to put in. So it was hard for me to kind of grasp how hard it really was until I started to get into it more. So I realized that it was more than just learning how to make great music, but it was also about the branding, the marketing, the networking, so many other variables that I had to take into account that I wasn't aware of before. I felt so overwhelmed by it that it made me feel like I couldn't do it, and I wanted to give up so many times because I was a college student studying biology, science stuff and photosynthesis and all that stuff. But luckily, I made a decision and a commitment to not give up. And because I loved music so much that I wanted to do it as a career, I didn't really think about all of the branding and the marketing stuff. I simply just wanted to make great music. But I learned the hard way that this is some of the things that you have to learn. So once I realized how difficult it would be to become a successful music producer and have a successful career in the industry, I slowly scaled back on what I was doing, and I started switching up a lot of things that I was doing as well. It was kind of the combination of the two. So going back to my partying days and just hanging out with friends and just watching Netflix, I didn't just drop everything immediately, but I scaled back on it slowly. So for example, instead of going out with friends 4 to 5 times a week, I scaled it back to 2 or 3 times a week, and I eventually scaled it back to once a week. And now it's to a point where I would go out once a month or even once every other month. It's even gotten to the point where I didn't even go anywhere for 6 months instead of just work and school and just music. And another example is instead of watching hours upon hours of Netflix and YouTube a day, I scaled back on 1 to 2 hours a day. So that's kind of the thing that I scaled back on. And as for switching things up, I switched a lot of things up. Like instead of watching Netflix, I would watch something more educational, something more motivational and inspirational, something that will bring me value and help me grow, not just as a music producer, but also as a person. I did the same thing with social media. Instead of following all of these rich and famous celebrities that has flashy cars, flashy house, and always getting into dramas and beefs and whatnot, I started following accounts that post valuable content as well as motivational, inspirational content because I like my time on social media. But while I'm on those platforms, instead of feeding into the gossip or feeding into the drama, I rather feed my desire to be on social media by following educational accounts. All of this stuff didn't happen overnight, as you can probably tell. It was really, really tough, and it took a lot of work, took a lot of commitment, self-discipline, and it definitely was a lengthy process, but it's all worth it. And I just had to give credit to my girlfriend for helping me realize what I was doing and helping me to start taking action to change myself for the better. And when I'm talking about lengthy process, this is a work in progress for over a year, maybe even 2 years. So once I scaled back or even stopped doing unproductive things and started doing more productive things and consume more positive and educational content, so like cutting down Netflix, stop going out partying, all that stuff, I began sacrificing a lot of things. And what this did for me was not only help me become a productive person, it helped me advance in my music career, but I began developing a more healthier mindset all around. At this point in my life, or stage of development, however you want to call it, I was turning into this dedicated hard worker with a strong vision and a healthy mindset. And so once I started making these changes in my life, I started to make sacrifices. I mean, I've already made a ton of sacrifice to get to where I'm at, like cutting out partying and Netflix. But once I got to this point, it required me to sacrifice other things. So I would sacrifice my sleep. I would sacrifice hanging out with friends, which is kind of already a given. I would sacrifice partying, also a given. But I would even sacrifice some family time, just being in my room working on music. Even at my 9 to 5 job, I would sacrifice my lunch. I would not even eat that much just to work on music, film YouTube videos, edit YouTube videos, make content. I would sacrifice these things that I would never in a million years thought that I would sacrifice. And the thing is, I felt okay with it. I felt perfectly okay with all these sacrifices I was making because I loved what I was doing. And while I was doing it, I would lose track of time. Whether it be making content, editing a video, recording a podcast, making a beat or a song, learning or relearning an instrument, educating myself on a new skill. I genuinely did enjoy all of these things that I was doing. So I didn't really mind sacrificing a lot of time for it. Also at this point in my life, I've become more aware of how I spend my time, what I'm sacrificing, and what I'm willing to give up for my music. And I'm also aware of the amount of work it will take to get to where I want to be. And I became more aware of my time when I started writing everything down. Meaning, what time I'd wake up, I would document it on like a notepad. What time I would get into the car to get to work, I would document that on my notepad. What time I went to lunch, what I was doing during that lunch. I even documented what I ate, what time I ate it at, and just document my entire day. Did I exercise today? What time did I get to the gym? What time did I leave the gym? Did I eat dinner? How long did I eat dinner for? Was I watching a show during dinner, or was I watching something more educational during dinner? I documented every little thing that I did. And I started to realize that I'm actually wasting a lot of time. Even after all these sacrifices that I've made, I'm still seeing that I waste a lot of time. And that is kind of when I made another list. I set my own schedule and I planned out my day minute by minute. What time am I expected to leave work? What time am I expected to start working out? What time am I expected to be home to eat dinner? What time am I expected to start working on music, start pumping out content? Just document everything, make a set schedule for myself. And over time, I started to build a hard, structured routine. So that's kind of a little backstory on how I started growing mindset wise. I started making sacrifices, giving things up, switching my content consumption to something that would benefit me more, and put my time into things that will help me become a better person and become a better music producer. The moral of the story is, if you want to become a successful artist, producer, DJ in the music industry, it will take tons and tons of sacrifices. Of course, at different stages of your growth and development, it's going to require a different kind of sacrifice. But there's not one person in the industry that's had a successful career and made it to the top without sacrifices. You'll lose sleep. You'll lose time with friends and family. You'll spend a lot of time alone with yourself, questioning your path or your spot in the music industry. But think of all the sacrifices that you've made to get to where you're at. The friends and family's invitations you've declined, not watching that popular Netflix show that everyone is talking about, not playing the hottest video game on the market. All of these things that you've given up for your music. I'm not even close to where I want to be, and I've already made tons of sacrifices, and I'll continue to make these sacrifices even after I achieve all of my dreams and desires. And to everyone listening that needs some motivation or whatever to put in the work, if you want it bad enough, you'll eventually get it. If you say you really want to become a successful music producer, but watch hours and hours of Netflix every day and complain that you don't have enough time in the day, then you really don't want it as bad as you say you do. If you say you really want to become a successful artist, but you're going out partying it up every day, then you don't really want it that bad. Because it's easier to watch Netflix, because it's easier to just go out with friends and have fun, because it's easier to be content with your life, and it's easier to not be on a path alone. But it all boils down to how bad you really want it. That's what got me to where I'm at today. Luckily, I had a girlfriend that helped me get here. But the one thing that she always tells me is, if you really want it that bad, then you'll make time for it, and eventually you'll get what you want. It's just those few words that encouraged me and motivated me to start making sacrifices, cutting out all the necessary things in my life that wasn't contributing to my growth as a music producer and as a person. So again, I just want to end this episode with one statement, which I've already said, but I want to say it again. If you really want it that bad, you'll make time for it, and eventually you'll get what you want. You have to make sacrifices. You just have to. There's no other way around it. No shortcut, no cheat code, no hacks, no this, no that. You just have to make those sacrifices and put in the work. So hope you enjoyed this episode, found some value in it, and I would really appreciate it if you left a review, leave a rating so I know that you're enjoying my content. So again, thank you for listening, and I just want to leave you with one last reminder. Today is your day, only if you make it. Have a good one.